We will be getting started in just a couple minutes as folks are coming in. We appreciate you guys joining us for this riveting webinar that we'll be about to start. We'll go through formal introductions in a little bit, but my name is Seth. I'm a senior project manager here at Indie Tech, and with me is Wasim, who will be presenting. He's the CIO and co-founder of Indie Tech Solutions.
Okay, let's give it 2 more minutes and then kick it off.
Yep, sounds good. If you guys want, you can use the chat function to just, if you're running into any technical issues or questions. Fortunately, in the era of Zoom, we haven't had too many of those, so I'm happy to have you all here, and hopefully you can hear us okay. If you do have any questions for Wasim throughout the webinar, please use the Q&A function for that. Other than that, you're also free to use the chat function to say hi, say where you're from, what organization you're with. And yeah, if there's anything else you're curious to learn today. So I think we are looking pretty good on folks coming in, so I will go ahead and turn it over to Wasim.
Thank you, Seth. Hi, everyone. Happy Wednesday, and it's fall, which is like one of my favorite seasons of the year. Thank you so much for joining today. This is going to be maybe our fifth, I think it's our fifth webinar this year, which is great. We love doing these. We stopped in the summer. Last one we did, I think it was like late July or yeah, like late June or early July. So we're so excited about doing one more. So today I would like to just talk a little bit about Google Tag Manager. What is it? What is not? And all of that cool stuff. And yeah, how this is going to work. I'll go over the agenda in a little bit, but as we go over this, please feel free to ask any questions you have. Okay, let's start. So yeah, this webinar, we started doing this like a few months ago. It's has a live transcription. So please, if you would like closed caption, there should be an icon with CC to click on to get the closed caption if you want to do that. All right, just a quick intro, like who we are. The name of the company we work with is Indie Tech Solutions. We are a web agency and we work exclusively with nonprofits. We started in March 2016, so 5+ years old. Yeah, we love web technologies and we love nonprofits. So that's in what we do. We do have a group of designers, developers, project managers. Myself, my name is Wasim. I am one of the co-founders and I'm the CIO. And then on this call, we have like Seth, who is our project manager. We do provide full stack. So that's like graphic design, web design in general, like graphic design, UI, UX, development, web hosting security, and also some analytics. And this session will be mostly around analytics sessions. As I said, we work with exclusive nonprofits with all kind of work they do. So like social justice, human rights, wildlife and nature, policy, research, all of the good stuff. Just one thing, like 2 days ago on Monday, we received an email from Summit Creative Award that we won one of the third place for best nonprofit website. And it was for wildlifecoexisting.org. So we are so happy we got that. And also we love that if you guys want to check it out, it's like we spent a lot of time on it and it's really, really a beautiful website. All right. Okay, the agenda. So today, why we are all here. So I want to talk about what is Google Tag Manager and how does it work. Then we're going to do kind of like a demo session where we gonna go over like how to set up an account, how to do the tags, pixels, and then also we're gonna do some use cases on a demo. Use cases such as if you're on your website, you wanna know like how many PDF downloads happen in a certain period of time. One of the use cases we're gonna do is the internal search feature, which is if you're on your website, if you do have search form or a search feature, you want to know what people are looking or typing in as a search terms onto your website. This is different than the Google search. Then if you have more than one website, you would like to know one of the questions you have is like how to know how all of my microsites are interacting with each other. So that's another thing we're gonna do. And by the end, we're gonna do a 15-minute to any questions you have. But as I said, like please feel free to send us questions as we go. Couple of things before we start. So one is, I said this is part one because Google Tag Manager, even though the Google is saying it's an easy tool to do to use and doesn't require a lot of like technical background, all of that is right, but there is a learning curve. And in this 45-minute or an hour, it's not going to be enough to go over everything. So we're just going to kind of like just scratch the surface, and then we're gonna schedule another, or we're gonna do another webinar to dig deep into this. But just like want to give you a heads up, it's not a lot of things we're gonna do. They're not complicated, but they're not like just like one click. Okay. All right. Let's see. Yeah. So first question is like, what is Google Tag Manager? Like, I like this term. Like I heard like before, like start working with Google Tag Manager, I heard like a lot. What is it? What does it do? By definition, which is like the boring version from Google, which is obviously it's a Google product, is it's a TMS, it's a tag management system. But there is something that is confusing about this, is what is the word tag? Because a lot of times we think about tags as from a taxonomy standpoint. Like I have these pieces of content, I have these posts or pages, and I want to tag them correctly. This is not that. A tag is just like, I don't love the word tag in Google Tag Manager, but it's basically by like their definition, the boring definition is just like a way to add code to your website from a TMS, which is the Google Tag Manager from this system. But you know, like any definition, it's a little boring. So what does it really mean? So Google Tag Manager is kind of like, it's one tool that will let you install code, like basic code, like web code on your website without you installing code, if that makes sense. So think about it as kind of like a toolbox. You have like your websites on one side, and then you have a toolbox of like tools you want to put onto the website. That's kind of like what Google Tag Manager is, at least like from my standpoint. Like you have code you want to push, but you're not a coder, you're not a developer, you just want to push things. And code could be things like, I don't know, like for instance, the examples we did, I want to know PDF downloads, okay? To do that, technically you would need, there are a lot of ways to do it, but you would need like to write code, a web developer will write a code, and then you inject it, you push it to your website, and then you will start tracking those PDF downloads. Or if there is like a form submission, like when someone submits a form about like contact us, you want to know what's the source of that, things like that. All of that, it's kind of like you need some snippets of code that you will need to ask your developer to do it for you, and then that developer or whoever is managing the website will push it to your website. Google Tag Manager is kind of like the middle interface between the two. You do everything in Google Tag Manager, and then you push it. And this, if you never work with Google Tag Manager, the whole concept like sounds like a little complicated and weird, but once we do the demo, all of this will make a little bit of sense. Two things though. Google Tag Manager is not Google Analytics. It's totally two different things. They are products within the Google ecosystem, like the Google product. Google Analytics gives you, it's an interface to see the traffic coming to the website. So you can learn everything about like how people are coming to the website. But Google Analytics by itself doesn't give you everything, of course, right? So you need extra code or extra snippets of code, what they call tags, to inject on your websites to see on your Google Analytic. For this session, we're going to use Google Analytic and Google Tag Manager because they work together very well, and I will explain how they're going to work together. And yeah, one thing that I heard over and over again is like tag in Google Tag Manager. It doesn't mean tracking. It means like tracking codes and not the taxonomy tags I was talking about. Okay, if all of this still not English, that's fine. We'll do some. Once we do the demo, all of this will make more sense. Okay, just have a very quick question. We should have done this on the survey, but is it possible, like on the chat, to tell us like if any of you is managing a Google Tag Manager account right now? That will give us an idea about like how fast or slow I will go with this. So if you can share it down the chat screen, that would be great. If you are managing or having access to Google Tag Manager accounts within your organization. Sweet. Okay. Now, so all of this kind of like, I like graphics. So once again, so you have your websites in one site, right? And then you have, I'm just going to use Google Analytics. I'm not gonna use the AdWords or any other tools. And we have Google Analytics on the other side. So from your website, you want to know how many people downloaded the PDF, right? The old school way, or without the Google Tag Manager, you just go directly to write the code on your website, and then it will show on Google Analytics. Google Tag Manager kind of like does that for you in a way. Okay. All right. So yeah, I'm just gonna switch directly because I like the demos more than just like this dry presentation. And we're gonna start from scratch more or less. We're gonna talk a little bit. We're gonna set up new accounts. We're gonna how to install pixels with pixels like or tags. Don't get them confused. Just pieces of code. And once you and you will see it's not really code that we write. It's just like some things we have to some like options we have to choose. And then we're going to do some use cases. Use cases, I just picked 3 because I believe, and we use this with a lot of our organizations we work with, these are like important for them in general. And I believe if you, and also it depends what kind of website you have for the organization. So if like you have a lot of resources, right, you do a lot of I don't know, you produce, like the organization does a lot of research, like you have a research library, right? You want to know which PDFs been downloaded the most. Why that is important? Because if there is any old information on that PDF or anything of that, or links that not, you want to like kind of like update the PDF because it has a significant outreach. So you want to keep everything up to date. Internal search feature, that's another good thing we go to is, and there are 2 ways to do that. When people go to your website, search for something, if you have like 10,000 search term like the same one, then maybe you need to do something about that. Maybe people coming to your websites are looking for that specific thing and it's just not easy for them to find it. So you want to know what are them. And then the microsite interaction, I believe it's very important if you have more than one website. And microsite doesn't have to be just microsites. Could be like if you have, let's say, 3 websites, you have the C3, C4, and a campaign website, right? You want to know how much traffic is, or like how they are, how organically they are communicating with each other, like how like people go into the C3 to learn about something, then clicking on a link to go to your C4 to make a donation, take an action, or things like that. You want to know like how to do that. All of this is not provided by default by Google Analytics. And then I didn't put this here, but we're gonna do we're gonna create a dashboard using Google Data Studio, just kind of like a bonus. And we did a webinar about Google Data Studio, so I'm not gonna talk much about it. We also did one about Google Analytics. I think we did 2 sessions, like a beginner and intermediate. So I'm not gonna talk much about Google's Analytics, but I will show the demo will have the Google Analytic accounts. Okay, let's stop this for a second, close this, and then, all right, how to set up an account first. Let's, and set, can you still see my, my screen, right?
Yep, you're
All
good.
right, great. Okay, so Google Tag Manager. All right, just gonna Google Tag Manager, right? And then it's tagmanager.google.com. We go there. If you don't have an account, you go and automatically it connects you to, because now I'm logged in already, but it connects you if you have you need to have a Google account to have a Google Tag Manager account, because once again, all of this is kind of like the ecosystem of Google. Okay, I'm just gonna create a new account once you come in. I just doing some demo with this one. Gonna create a new account. All right, this account name, I'll see organization. This, for instance, is going to be your organization. This is because you can create more than one, you can manage more than one account. Like for instance, we manage few organizations accounts, so we differentiate them by the name of the organization. So organization X, Y, and Z, it's the United States, that's fine. But then within your accounts, you can have more than container is basically more than one website. So I will do main websites C3. This is just like some naming. Just for the web, we're gonna focus on the web. I'm not gonna do any of the apps or anything like that. Okay, so then we're gonna create this. Obviously, you have to accept this. No one reads this, so I'm just gonna also accept and yes. So now, okay. Now, out of it tells you like when I said like there is no code needed. So it's like in order for your website to communicate with Google Tag Manager, you will need to put some code. That's what they mean here by install Google Tag Managers. There are like two things you need to add to your websites. One, like if you have a web developer in the team, you could do that. If you have a WordPress website, there are plugins that will allow you to add these snippets of code. One here, one like in the head, one in body. If you don't have any, if you just want to do it on yourself, that's basically that's very related to how you are how your website is managed. But this is one of the only piece of codes you have to put on your website for Google Tag Manager to work, because you need that connection, right? So once that is done, and if this is confusing, please send me questions and I can explain it more. Okay, so let's say we install it, it's on our website and it's working fine. So this is kind of like the dashboard of Google Tag Manager and how it looks like. By default, we have nothing. And you see here, this is your tracking code, what they call the tracking code, GTMWP, blah, blah, blah. If I come, so I'm just using our website as a test environment for this, and I created a page here. So if I come here, you know what, let me do something else. This is another bonus thing. Let me do this. I'm gonna use, because this, I'm gonna use the Firefox, Chrome for this. There is a plugin here called Google Tag Assistant. It will tell you which tags are on. So I do have two. I have Google Tag Manager and Google Analytics. So this one, GTM, this is the Google Tag Manager we have on the website. As you can see, the NCZ, this is different than the one we were looking at, because this is just brand new. This is just for the demo. But I will, we will do some tags here, work on this, but I will show you action on this website. Okay. So once you are here, it doesn't have a lot of options, but some of the options are confusing. So there are three major or two very important things that you need to know. The others, it's not you don't need to know, like you can do a lot of things without them. So the first thing is tags. This is like the most confusing one. A tag, once again, it's not like a taxonomy. It's not something you add to your content. A tag here is like, what's the piece of code will do? What are you going to do with it? That's how I see it. And trigger is when something happens, do something. So trigger is when, what's going to happen? A click, submit a form, things like that, like an action that will happen on your websites. So for instance, I just created two things here. One is we don't have a lot of PDFs on our website, because we don't really produce a lot of PDF content, but I just added one here. So one of the actions is like, if I click on this PDF, I want something to happen, right? Something to happen, I mean, just like from an analytics, I need to know something, right? Well, obviously you will download the PDF, but I want to track that action and do something with it. Then the other thing I was talking about, like, let's say I'm typing GTM, okay? I want to search on my website about like GTM. So it tells me, so I want to know which search terms people use to come to the website. Once again, if there is like most of it about like GTM, maybe I need to create a page about that because we have nothing, right? So coming back here, so the trigger is like what happened, like which action on the website happening that triggered that. And then the tags here, which I wish there is a way to rename this, but like what's going to happen. So these are the two. Then there's like variables. Let's not talk about much on this like session. We can talk about them. I will create like some variables, but you can do a lot of things. So everything we're going to do today don't need custom variables. We're going to use just like built-in. Okay. So back to my point earlier when I said Google Analytics is not Google Tag Manager. So as you can see here, there's like no Google, like you can't like measure anything. So I'm going to take one Google Analytic for very quickly because this is where we're going to show the data, because one thing we need to do is when someone click on a PDF, we want to know where we're going to send that data for so we can see it. So that will be Google Analytics. We're going to send everything to Google Analytics. We can send it to other places, but for this demo and for like what we usually do is like we send to Google Analytics and then we access it from there. So Google Analytics, I'm not going to go over it, but there are a few things I want to do. One important thing is, okay, audience, let's go to behavior. And I will do the first use case we want to talk about is the site search. How to measure like site search on your website. If you do have a site search feature on your website, obviously you can track it. If you don't, then that's a different story. But once you have it, there are like different ways. So for instance, here I'm just going to do GTM once again. I'll do search. Okay, so it gives me the results. Google Analytics by default gives you under site search, you can, without doing any Google Tag Manager, doing anything, you can capture the internal search results. To do that, I'll do admin. You can and you cannot. I'll show you both. So I'll do view settings. I think it's view settings. Okay. It's not view setting actually. It's property settings. Okay. It's not. Has to be view settings. Okay. Yeah. So it's under view settings and here under site search settings. Turn it on. And then the query parameter that is asking you. So if you have a WordPress site, most likely you will have the default search query, which is anything after the question mark is this S. So S equals, so anything with S. Sometimes it could be search. Okay, Drupal has different ones. So I'm just gonna do the S, which is the query that is used for the search. And once again, this has nothing to do with Google Tag Manager, but I'll show you like because not all of the websites have that and how you can do this with Google Tag with Google Search. Okay, and then that's fine. I will save it. So next time someone does a search on our website, it will be listed under site search here. All of that under behavior. Okay, it will be listed here. Now, here is where Google Tag Manager like comes handy. I will do this is one of our clients, and I'm gonna do, let's go to search. Let's do okay. So let's search now. So for that specific one, we don't have the question mark, which is like the query string, because this is a very custom made search. So for this, you will need Google Tag Manager. Manager to get all of the results. You cannot do it. But for most of the websites, especially if you're using like the default WordPress and it's simple, you can track most of that on, as I mentioned, with that very basic query string. Okay. Then now, most of the Google Tag Manager things are events. Events means like when you do something, something happens. So when you click on, once again, when I click on this PDF should be, I would download the PDF. When I click on search, I want to get this, this query string and things like that. So under Google Tag Manager, if I'm just going to go to some events, and we will create our first couple of events. I do have two here. One is called outbound link clicks. This means if someone comes to our website and click on anything, click on a link that is external. For instance, like this is the IWCN. If you click on this, counts as an outbound click to a different website. Why this is important, and we have this because once again, if you have a lot, and I will show you a report with it. If you have more than one website, you want to know how they are connected with each other. In fact, I'm going to show you something very quick. Show you a quick demo. Okay. Yeah, this is something different. This is like another tool. It's called like Google Data Studio. That's where we kind of like create all of the dashboards. Basically, from Google Analytics, we want to create beautiful reports. But what I want to show you is, okay, so this is the outbound one I was talking about earlier, right? So we created a dashboard, which is exactly the same thing. This is tell us all of the traffic from our website to external website, like how many clicks that happen. But also, just because we don't have microsites, but I know other organizations do, you can, I'm just kind of like for the test, I did like New American Leaders is one of our microsites, and allforgood.org is one of our other websites. So here it tells you how many clicks that, and then once you kind of like, this gives you an idea about like how this traffic is coming from one microsite to another. You can go, obviously you can go way beyond just clicks. You can do a lot of other things with it, but just this visibility, that's like, this is how your ecosystem, you can have more than one microsite and stuff like that. So this, all of like this is pulled from exactly the same. This is exactly the same data. It's just in a different, like much better, nicer way to present it. Okay. So let's do our first, let's go back to Google Tag Manager and start with the first two things. So one of the first things we want to do is the first tags we want to do is what I call we need to connect to Google Analytic, right? Because we want to, that's the kind of like the first thing we want to do, because we want to send everything to Google Analytic. So the first thing is like, there is the GA4, which is like the newer version of Google Analytic. It has a lot of like new features, and it's kind of like a new-ish system. It's not just an upgrade, it's totally new, but working on this, it's not 100% ready yet. So we're just going to use with the classic one. Okay, so one of the first thing we want to do is we want to track the page views, which is basically like this. When someone comes to the website, we want to know the page views. Okay, remember when I said the variables? So I'm gonna create, so it asks you which Google Analytic account you want to send this to. So since this is brand new, we don't have one, we have to create a new one. I will call this our, you have to do this once, at least like for the first time, because you have to connect your Google Analytic account to your Google Tag Manager. I'll just do Google Analytic account. Okay. Let's see where it is. Okay, so it's a Google Analytics settings, and then we need a tracking ID that you have to get from your Google Analytic. I'm gonna come here. Property, it's under property settings. So this should be my ID. Okay, I can save it. So now I can save. So this is, I want to do like all of the page view, which is basically Google Analytics. What do you want to track? If I save it, it will tell me, hey, but you need a trigger, because you need something to trigger it. like things doesn't happen by itself. So I will add a trigger, and I will do all of the pages. If I see all of the pages, I want them to go to Google Analytics. So Google Analytic page views. So that's kind of like one of the first one we want to do. What this does is, if someone comes to your website, it will send all of the page views to Google Analytics, so you can basically see all of this. This is different. Another way to do this is, instead of like doing the Google Tag Manager, is to skip Google Tag Manager, come here, property setting, tracking info, and then tracking code. This is another thing you could do, is just copy this code and put it on the back end of your website. But remember, now we're not gonna write any code and put it on our website directly. We're not gonna do that. We're gonna treat Google Analytic as a tag, and then we're gonna use Google Tag Manager to do that. So what this, it says here, like mine is like it's connected to one, which is great. I'm just gonna back here, but this is one first example of like how to use Google Tag Manager to add tags, which is snippets of code, to your website. So instead of like doing this, copying this, put it on our website, we are using Google Tag Manager to do that for us. Okay. One of the things, I have to open another one because this is not going to work. So I'll show you a couple of things. One second. Once again, at first, this is a little bit confusing and it's a lot, but once you get used to it, like spend some time with it, it's very useful. Let me, I'm almost there. Come here. Okay. So I'm just going to use, instead of using, this is just like the demo to, like this account is the demo to create all of the tags. I'm going to use the one we are using right now. Okay. So I already have some tags. So if I come here to the tags, the first one is exactly the same one I did, is Google Analytics Universal. Like for all of the pages, it's exactly what I did. One good thing when you create tags is you can, I'm here, I create this tag, looks good. The trigger is whenever there is like a page view, amazing. You can preview your tags before submitting them. So I'm just gonna click preview here. Let's refresh. Preview, and then it will ask me where is the website you have the, this is assuming we already installed the GTM code I mentioned earlier, HTTPS. I'm going to do indeed. Okay, connect. So this interface, it gives you, so it opens that on a kind of like a debug mode, and it tells you, okay, connected, good. So I do have like tags on my account, right? So one of the first thing, this is the one I mentioned earlier, and it says tags fired. It means like it's active right now, meaning, and this one is for a page view. When someone come and view any of my pages, trigger that, like, yeah, that I need to track that and send it to Google Analytics here. So if I come here, if I go to live, it should be me in Silver Spring real time. This has to be me. So basically the tag manager we're using right now is from your website. So there is your website on your left, and then there is tag manager in the middle, and then there is Google Analytics where you see that's kind of like the Google Tag Manager creates that piece of code and send them. So, and as you can see here, there are like some tags that are not fired yet. So for instance, I have some PDF downloads and I have some outbound and some things. So let's test that for a second, the download PDF. So I'm gonna come here. Now I will come here to that and I will do, what is the page we did? Oh, demo GTM. Okay. And I will show you two things. The debug. Okay, let's say I want to see, and we will create a PDF one too. I want to see if I click on this PDF, if if the download PDF, these are like exactly the same, but if this download PDF will trigger or not. Come here, click. So I see the PDF has been downloaded, which is great. Come here, and as you can see, here it's just because of the demo I created too, but here you can see the fire is triggered. And if I come here to the real time, I'll do events. I see that download the PDF file, or like these two are triggered here as well. So Google Tag Manager did sense that to, and I see an outbound link clicks here. So this is not me, this is someone else, but yeah, someone from Salzburg. Okay. So, all right, back here. So we did the Google, this is for the page views, great. Let's create another tag. Come here, new. The tag is like, where do you want it to be? For all of like this session, we are gonna send everything to Google Analytic. Now the only difference is we want an event. So what do we want to do is we want to trigger if there is a PDF. So that's usually it should be an event like happening. There are other stuff like page, like social and some other stuff, but event that's the one I usually use, or like we should use for things like that. So there are a couple of things. There's like a lot of fields. Don't get confused. They're not that complicated. So there's category, actions, label, value. I don't add that much, and the rest usually I will leave like default. So under category, action, and label, where is that coming from? So if I come back here, behavior and events, because that the other one is events, I'll go overview. So any event, like the events, all of them, they have a category, they have action, and they have label. So category is like all of this kind of like what you want it to do. So for instance, I named the outbound links clicks. So this one is, that's the category. That's how I want to name it. And then the action, it could be whatever you like, when you click, what's going to happen? What's the action you want to do? So for instance, I collect the URL that is being clicked. This is for the outbound URL. If it's a PDF, maybe you want to do the name of the file, right? And the label is just like for your how you want to, like, this is very optional. I'm not even using it right here. So coming back here, I will do the category here is like PDF downloads. That's what I want to name it. The action, I'll call it. Okay, so when the PDF downloads, how it should show up here under actions. I want the PDF link. So for instance, like this one, I want that one right there, this name. I want this name, LID, the one I did for the demo. I'll come here. No built in. Click your, either click URL or click text will do. I'll do click URL is fine. Okay. All right. And then remember like the variable. So we created one variable, which is like which Google account you want to send it to. Like usually you only, there is one that you send it to all. Now this is the kind of like the little tricky part is like which trigger, how do you want to do it? So the one by default, the triggers, these doesn't make sense to me. This is not what I want, right? So one of the conditions, if like we want to do PDFs, also like the URL ends with PDF. Okay, that looks good. And then I'll call this PDF clicks. Save. Okay, so I call it PDF downloads. It's in a PDF click. I will call this download PDF downloads. Save. Oh gosh, I screwed up, but it's fine. So once again, we can preview everything, make sure everything is good. And if we do that, that's basically what we did here. All right, I see here like I will create one more tag very quickly, and then I'll open it for some questions. Which one? This one is like the outbound link. It's very similar concept. I'm gonna create a new tag, go to Google Analytics. That's an event. Outbound clicks. action is the click URL, which what people click. I will send this to the Google account, and the trigger will be, let's add this. I'll call this just links, some of the links, and then I will do built-in variables. This one, I forget which one is this on click target. That's why I have another account. I forget what this one is actually. Outbound links. Outbound URL. Okay. It's clicks. Outbound URL. Okay. This one is not. The one I'm looking for is some clicks. The outbound URL is true. And that will give us all of the URL, like when we click that is external. We can once again, guys, the slide kind of here. Can preview that and see if it's gonna work or not. Right now it's not triggered, but if I come here, I will do list of projects and click on AWCN, which is for our website, it's an external link. So it should trigger here the outbound link. I think we're doing a different one. Okay. But the tag basically, if I come back to here, once again, as I said, like, so it will list all of the external links, and also like if you have any microsites that are connected to your website, you can do them here. This is, once again, this is just like, even though it's a little complicated, but it's like the basic, some of the basic usage of Google Tag Manager to push code. Because if you want to do something like this without Google Tag Manager, you have to, your developer has to create code, and then you have to push it to your website and all of that. So Google Tag Manager basically is the middle system to do all of that. Can discard this for now. Close this. Gosh, it's a lot of tabs. Another thing, I don't think if I have it here, yeah, is the PDF downloads. Yeah, we don't have a lot of PDFs on our website, but I can show an example of where that, like a real one. 1 second. There's one. Okay. This is a little bit like an advanced report. Give me 1 second. Okay. This is one of the reports that it will tell you where the like the PDF downloads, like how many PDF, like for instance, this one is just like for one for like the month of September. So it tells you like where the page, this is like a large website, where the PDF is, how many times it's been downloaded, but also like what's the source of all of that traffic to do that download. So which is very useful in some cases. So you know, like, hey, like, I don't know, like this campaign that I'm running is generating a lot of websites through that, or like it's a Google search, like a Google generic search that is doing that. Okay. All right. I think I have some questions right now. It's like 1:50, which is, I think it's a good timing. All right, one of the question is like, what are some specific use cases of external links? So once again, like external link, it means something that is not within your domain names. So let's say, for instance, you have two organizations. You have the C3 and you have a C4, right? You want to know which one, how much traffic is coming from one organization to another. So that's one way. That's where like a specific use case for it. As I mentioned on the like here, another use case is like if you, I don't know, if you generate a lot of like organic outbound links to some like different organization or something, that's could be like very useful. Like if you partner with that organization, right? Like you both run in a campaign and you want to know like, hey, we generated 50% of your traffic last month or something. That's another use case of like the outbound links. So it means anything that is not your your specific websites that you are tracking. Okay, these conversions. When you add tag managed triggers to download using PDF, will track all the PDF downloads. It's possible to track specific one. Yes. So one of the question is, if you do like the PDF downloads, do you track everything or do you track some? Yes, you can specify which ones. If you want to only track one PDF, you can do just one, or you can do, yeah, as I did here. I will get a sub debug in here for a second. Yeah, when we do the PDF here, let me show you like the triggering. Download the PDF. You can specify which, I just here I did anything with PDF, but you can add other stuff. Like if the, I don't know, the click URL is a specific PDF, or like you can do 3 or 4 PDFs. Or the other thing you could do is, which I really like I recommend for all of like the reporting, like if possible, use Google Data Studio because it's amazing. And here you can filter literally as you like. So for instance, here this like made like we made this one. So let's say I want to know only the wildlife contains, and see what we get. So that will filter on the fly all of the data for you, and it's super interactive. You can like, I don't know, do like the whole like here if you want, and see how many links for that specific one like outbound link to that specific URL from your websites. So if collects everything you need and then maybe filter, or you can do both. You can do through the tag manager as well. Okay. Exactly. Yeah, it is a little tricky to set up, especially at first. There is a learning curve, so it's not technically like, because a lot of things is a lot of tags you create are like you just read kind of like copy paste, like you do them again and again and again. It's just like the learning curve at the beginning is the tricky one, but you can do, this is just like basic stuff, but you can do some crazy tracking. Like let's say you have an advanced form, right, with multi-steps. You want to know where people are cutting off, where they don't like it's 3 steps, how why they finished only step 1 and not 2, things like that. You can go crazy to I didn't do the submit forms here, but it's maybe we'll do it like on a different session. But you can, yeah, when someone, one of the things that are really important for us, for instance, is like when someone come here, and it's the same thing for most of the organizations, like when they submit your call to action form, you want to know where they came from to submit that form. And you can definitely do that. Like you can add a tag when the form has been submitted. I think I have one here, which is form submitting sources, where you can go and see where that came from. So yeah, this is like some of the tags we are using right now. For other organizations, we have tons of them. Another very common use case for tag manager is like adding pixels, like Facebook pixels, if you ever heard of that term too, which is basically snippet of code. If you are using the ads on Facebook, you want to track and see like how all of the interaction. And why all of this is important, because having a website, a nice website is great, but learning more about like what people are doing and tracking your call to actions and what you want your visitors to do, that's even better. And that's why you have a website to start with. Okay, do I have 7 minutes? I think I have a lot of other things through Google Tag Manager that you didn't show us today. A lot. So the question is, are there other things you can track through Google Tag Manager that you didn't show us today? You literally can track anything and everything on your website, meaning like a click. Like for instance, let's say you want to track like a drop down. You want to track scroll, like how like people scrolling like down when they stop scrolling. You can track form submissions, as I said. You can track literally everything you want. It all depends on like what's the use case. Okay, specific external links. I think those are all the questions I have for now. And as you know, as always, if you have any questions or like follow-up, please feel free to like send us an email, let us know, and be more than happy to help with that. Seth, I think, I don't know if I have anything else. So okay, we will, yeah, I'm here like for last like 5 more minutes if you have any questions, and I will definitely, let me just, yeah, this is just like kind of like an intro call. I know 1 hour 45 minutes is not enough, but I will highly like, especially if you want to get a lot serious, you want to learn more about like more analytics about your website, you should definitely consider Google Tag Manager to do a lot of that. All right, just navigating from one menu to another. Okay, thank you all. Thank you all for coming. If you okay, I think that's it for me today. If you have any specific use case that you want to discuss with us, please feel free to just email me or email Seth. Check out our website. We always have like some cool stuff. And yeah, thank you everyone. And I will follow up with another session, maybe October or November. We'll see. But we want to do 1 or 2 more webinars. Okay. All right. Thank you all. Thanks.